This weekend, the nation got yet another gift wrapped with a big, beautiful bow, but it didn't come from President Trump or Doge. It certainly could have, since it involves yet another woke lunatic losing their job. But yesterday, the New York Times reported that MSNBC has decided to cancel perhaps the single most vitriolic and revolting shows on the legacy media, and given their penchant for lies and hostility towards everything good and true, that's saying something. It is now being widely reported that Joy Reid, whose personality is nothing less than a parody of repulsiveness, has been fired. Her show, The Readout, canceled in a move that shocked the woke fringe of the lunatic left. President Trump wasted no time in rubbing their faces in it. He took to Truth Social and accused Reid of being a, quote, mentally obnoxious racist who should have been canned long ago. And as for MSNBC, Trump wrote, quote, "This whole corrupt operation is nothing more than an illegal arm of the Democrat Party. They should be forced to pay vast sums of money for the damage they've done to our country. Fake news is an unpardonable sin." Now, it's no secret that MSNBC has been suffering from a ratings plunge since November 5th. A considerable portion of their audience clearly felt betrayed by the coverage that led up to the election, a coverage that climaxed with moments like this.
We've laid out the stakes in this crucial election, where one side stands for freedom while the other meets the textbook definition of fascism, namely a far-right dictatorial regime like Hitler's Germany or Franco's Spain or Mussolini's Italy. Vladimir Putin's Russia, Viktor Orban's Hungary, uses the military to execute the whims of a strongman dictator and controls and suppresses the press, education, the arts, rewrites history to suit a favored and dominant racial class, and foments extravagant corruption in order to enrich the dictator and his friends.
Now, what's so fascinating about what you just heard, that screwball screed, is that virtually everything that Joyless Reid said there could be accurately applied to the Democrats. Everything. Everything from their authoritarian tactics and the weaponization of the law, arresting their political opponents, controlling the press, indoctrinating fundamentalist ideology in our education, the arts, rewriting history to suit a favored politically driven narrative dictated by favored identity groups, engaging in extravagant corruption in order to enrich themselves and their friends. Hello, Nancy Pelosi. I mean, every word of that describes to a T the modern day Democrat Party. Don't just take my word for it. I mean, listen to Tulsi Gabbard, Bobby Kennedy, Jimmy Dore, all former Democrats. They list out litanies that sound exactly like that for why they left the Democrat Party. And what you just heard there really is nothing less than something called projection. And Joyless Reid, was a master of projection. Projection, of course, accuses others of the very sins that she and her political party commit. But the twisted genius of projection is that it allows the accuser, the projector, to admit the crime without admitting to the crime. That's a key distinction. The accuser gets to admit the crime without admitting to the crime. So the accuser gets to admit that all these things are happening, right? Racism, authoritarianism, sexism, bigotry, lawfare, corrupt kickbacks. All these things are indeed infesting our nation. Projection allows the accuser to admit that. But the projection at the same time deliberately tries to deflect attention away from the accuser, who happens to be the one perpetuating all of these crimes. So everyone sees a murdered body at the center of the room. So the fact that there's been a murder is not contested. Instead, what we're seeing is the actual murderers trying to pin the murder on someone else. It's admitting the crime without admitting to the crime. Projection is a blatant attempt to get away with murder, or in this case, racism, sexism, authoritarianism, weaponized legalism, ideological fundamentalism, and the like. Projection enables Democrats to admit that our democracy and our Constitution are being torn to shreds, but without admitting to it. And Joyless Reid was a master of such pernicious deception, which is simply another way of saying that she is a bona fide psychopath. Psychopaths commonly use projection as a way to manipulate and deceive others. And when psychopaths like Joyless Reid command a sizable audience, that audience ends up becoming hysterical. They're intentionally whipped up into a delirious frenzy, which today we commonly refer to as TDS, Trump Derangement Syndrome. But the key here is that all TDS really is the kind of hysteria that's provoked, intentionally provoked, by the manipulating deceptions of unhinged psychopaths like Joyless Reid. But it's not just her penchant for projection. I think what we're really seeing here with her cancellation is the end result of resentment politics and the ethics of hate. Joy Reid, as you can see for yourself, she really is joyless. She is animated ultimately by nothing more than hate. I mean, her entire program seethed with hatred. She hates our country. She hates its patriots. She hates conservative citizens. She hates our traditions. She hates our customs. She hates our unique American culture. She is a woman animated by hate. And when you're animated by hate, inevitably, you end up destroying yourself. You destroy yourself, and oftentimes, unfortunately, you end up destroying a lot of the people around you. Remember, in theology, the first victim of evil is always the evil perpetrator. The first victim of evil is always the perpetrator. Cain was the first victim of murder. You heard that right, Cain. Because before he could murder Abel, he had to first murder his own conscience. The first victim of evil is always the perpetrator. And when you are so utterly motivated by hate and division, bent on literally destroying everything, destroying our nation, its culture, its customs, its history, its dignity, when you are so hell-bent on destroying, as Joyless Reid was, you ultimately end up only destroying yourself. Her deception comes ultimately from her own deceived heart. And that deception extended out into her hallmark infatuation and obsession with race and racism. And I'm going to show you exactly how. Wait until you see this. But first, gang, as you know, we look out for each other here on this channel, and your health is our number one priority. So if you're one of the 100 million Americans struggling with all the weight gain and loss of energy that comes with a fatty liver, you have got to try Liver Health Formula. It's an all-natural supplement. It contains 12 clinically proven botanicals that help recharge and protect your liver. It's manufactured right here in the USA and approved by independent American doctors. And if you click on that link below right now, you can actually try Liver Health Formula and receive a free bottle of blood sugar formula when you order today. So don't let a fatty liver keep you sluggish and inactive. Click on that link below right now or go to getliverhelp.com/Turley and claim your free bonus gift. That's getliverhelp.com/Turley. Joy Reid's entire media career has been built on perpetuating a very pernicious, fabricated, invented form of racism that's widely referred to as CRT, or critical race theory. And critical race theory pushes what's called the prejudice plus power definition of racism. Prejudice plus power. And this is the notion that non-white people cannot possibly be racist. And this is because you need political power to go along with your prejudice in order to be racist. And only white people in America ultimately hold political power. That's the claim. That's the power plus prejudice definition of racism. So the more extreme view of this is that white people are by definition racist because they benefit from their race's hold on political power and privilege. While at the same time, non-white people cannot possibly be racist since they're devoid of the political power necessary to be racist. This is why Joyless Reid was able to get away with saying things like this.
Hey, I just want to give some free advice to the white progressives, particularly white progressive women who may be thinking about marching against the Trump victory, maybe putting back on the P-word hats and doing that thing. I would just say probably don't send any of those invites to any black women you know. I'm just going to tell you right now, they're not coming. I'm pretty sure black women have resigned from the Save America Coalition, Save Democracy Coalition, and definitely the Save the Democratic Party Coalition. I think that's probably not happening. I would just keep those invites maybe among your own friends because I don't think they're coming.
Now, can you even imagine if that racialized language were reversed and applied to any other group as spoken by a white person? You see, CRT, this prejudice plus power definition of racism, allowed Joy Reid to talk in a way no white person on the planet could ever be allowed to speak. And the irony, of course, is that this ability to speak in a way no one else could is the textbook definition of privilege. It's not just a matter of it's not just the fact that Joy Reid attended Harvard University, got a 7-figure salary from a major legacy media news outlet. Her privilege extends into the very realm of words themselves. The version of racism that she peddled allowed her to say and speak in such a way that no white person ever could even imagine doing. And that's the whole point. That's the whole point of the CRT version of racism, that CRT definition of racism. It's to silence any and all dissent. And it does so not by eliminating racial privilege, but simply by reversing it. Unfortunately for the likes of Joyless Reid, she has to embrace this fabricated CRT version of racism precisely because all studies across the board show that real racist sentiments, so these are sentiments that believe that one race is biologically superior to other races, those sentiments have been on the decline for decades now. In the 1950s, about 90% of Western populations opposed interracial marriage. That's one of the key sort of racial indicators. Today, it's the opposite. 90% support it. In the 1950s, a vast majority of whites felt uncomfortable working for or living next to someone of a different ethnicity. Today, that number almost doesn't even exist. True racism, sentiments of biological superiority, has declined to single digits today. And in fact, a study on the racial sentiments of 2016 voters found that Trump voters were no more inclined towards racist sentiments than Clinton voters. You know, that Tom Hanks nonsense we saw on Saturday Night Live a week back, accusing Trump voters of racism, it's rooted in leftist fantasies. We have solid studies that show it doesn't exist. If anything, vitriolic racism, and particularly anti-Semitism, is being fanned and flamed on the political left. All of this is to say, Joy Reid will certainly not be missed. She's taking her place along with Don Lemon and Jim Acosta and Chuck Todd and a host of other former legacy media anchors who've all been consigned to the ash heap of history. Ultimately victims of nothing more than their own hatred and vitriol. By the way, click on the link in the description below To get all these articles and tweets I reference throughout my videos emailed to you each and every day. You're going to love it. We want you to have the best resources out there to convince your family and your friends of this new MAGA super age that's rising here. Hey there, Dr. Steve here, and I got a question for you. What if you could go back in time and get in on the Bitcoin era when it was still just under $1? Or buy a prime real estate before the market exploded, say, in Manhattan? Or invest in a company like Tesla before the whole world caught on? Well, that's exactly where we are right now. The parallel economy is exploding like never before. New financial opportunities are opening up, and those who see the shift and take action early are the ones who will prosper the most. That's why I'm hosting a live 90-minute event on February 27th called the America's Golden Age Summit. Now, I'll be joined by some amazing expert guests who are going to show you how to position yourself for massive success in this new era. But even better, what exactly to do in this new era. It's a truly one-of-a-kind, game-changing event. Click the link, grab your spot, and be a part of America's Golden Age Summit. Do not miss this chance to get ahead. I can't wait to see you there.